afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tilson Live. It is Tuesday. It is 2 o'clock. We are coming at you live on YouTube and live on Facebook, as we do each and every week, to talk about all things building a custom home on your land. I'm Eric Allard, part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family, joined as I am each and every single week. We'll get to this guy in a minute. Joined as I am each and every single week by the marvelous, the masterful, the creator of all things that you see digital at Tilson, Jon Dantzler. Good afternoon, Dawn.
Good afternoon, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. We're all in weird places. We're all out of sorts. But we have a special guest today. We'll get to him in just a second. But before we do that, folks, jump into the chat. We want to hear from you, where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process that you are in. And I'm going to introduce this gentleman here. But yeah, we are live on YouTube, live on Facebook, 2 o'clock, Tilson Tuesday. We got Jon Dantzler. We got folks jumping in, telling us where they're building, where they're watching from, and what part of the process they are in. And today, we have a special guest. It's kind of spoil it, Dawn. I'm going to steal your thunder, but I'm going to let you introduce what we're doing anyway. We have the Senior Vice President, Wagon Hill Home Loans, running the show, Mr. Jon Powers, coming at us today. Jon, how are you doing, sir?
I am wonderful. How about yourselves?
Doing awesome, man. We're so great. We're excited. So, Dawn, we have Jon here. What are we talking about today? And then we'll let Jon do a little introduction.
So we're going to talk about design. No, we've got Jon here to answer all of y'all's financing questions. So, one of the biggest, most important things of getting into your new home is how are we going to pay for it? How does all of this work? And so Jon was kind enough to join us today so he can answer all of your questions about all the different programs that you can use to get into your home.
Yeah, very stoked about this. So, Jon, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your journey through the mortgage and home building space, and what the relationship between Tilson and Wagon Hill Home Loans is, and what are some of the benefits of that. Go right ahead, bud.
I'm going to need a pen and paper to make a list of all this that you need me to talk about here.
I got it. I think you'll be all right.
As Eric said, my name's Jon Powers. I've been in the mortgage industry now for 28 years, and I can't fathom saying that at times, but
almost a whole 30-year mortgage.
Right. You're only to pay that off, right?
Yeah, you're almost paid off.
Yeah, exactly. But started out in the industry as a sales guy and had worked many different roles as I've been through the industry, from a manager, sales manager, to a national sales manager, to even to training at one point in time, where I was a trainer for mortgage loan officers. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I exited the management piece and came back into the actual loan origination game with a focus on construction lending. I had helped my company roll out and launch the construction products that we now have today. And we like to say, and I think we're pretty accurate, that we're the largest non-bank construction lender in the country. And so we have a really robust full suite of products that allows us to help just about anybody in most every situation who wants to build a home. So been doing this a long time, live in Tennessee, wife, 2 kids, one 24, one about to be 16. So we'll be driving soon. So hopefully we can get through one of those unscathed like we did the first one. So, but now just thrilled to be partnered with Tilson Homes, the Wagon Hill relationship that we began early last year. And we just about have ready to launch here on July 1st, the joint venture relationship between Tilson and OneTrust Home Loans, our parent company, and that is Wagon Hill Home Loans. So we're very excited. We've been working hard to get to this point and ready to get that show on the road as well.
Yeah, we're stoked about that. It's a great, because it is such a challenging and necessary part of the process. And let's face it, the government has made it where it is just about as unpleasant as they could do when the government does get involved in any kind of process. And they tend to, but you guys do an amazing job of making it palatable for our customers, and we're grateful for that. So again, folks, keep jumping into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you are in. Obviously, we're gonna be starting, talking about all things on your lot. If you do have questions about obviously financing, this is the resource for it. That's what Jon's been doing for like 3 decades. But we will also answer questions about, construction itself. You got questions about design. You got questions about site preparation leading up to that. We are going to be talking in depth about some different programs, because there are different ways to finance these homes. And we'll be talking about all of those things. If you got questions about water wells or septic systems, how those things get paid for, how does that work? We can absolutely help with every single one of those questions. So do jump into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you are in. We want to hear from every one of you guys. A little bit too. So a long time ago, Tilson had a different affiliated business agreement that we did for a while, actually almost 20 years, and exited that space. And then so we've been kind of bebopping along, probably the last 12 years or so, using other preferred lenders, and it was a really good time. And we did find it interesting. I had to point this out. So Jon was on. Jon went and looked. It was what, like a 1 year tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, so tomorrow, 1 year to the day, Jon joined us. Let's all face it. Let's just be real with each other. We're family here. That was a different presidential administration ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and looked at what the 30-year mortgage rate was on June 13th, 2024, and it was 6.95%. Jon, here we are 1 year later. What is it today?
Today, one very different president later, 6.95%.
Huh, you don't say.
There you go.
Almost as if all the stuff that we say here about what happens in your house is way more important than what happens in the White House.
Right.
Folks, it's astounding regardless of what you hear on the media, the internet, wherever you get your news from, the numbers are the numbers. And it is astounding what little impact a presidential administration can actually have on a big picture things like mortgage rates and stuff like that. So don't fret, don't worry. That's just, I know it's easy to say, but it really is true that we're literally sitting here 1 year apart and nothing's changed. So when you started 28 years ago, let's just go down memory lane. About what was the interest rate? I didn't go back that far on the rate calculator.
So you're going to laugh. About 6.95%. It was right there. And we really didn't see any drops. I think the first real refinance boom that I experienced was about 5 years in, and that would have been, I think, 03-ish, 02, 03. So that was the first one where we saw rates in the fives.
Yeah,
and everybody, lost their minds, because we hadn't seen rates that for a very long time. And so, hopefully we see a repeat of that in the not too distant future. We all would like to see it. Yeah. But it also, too, you have to take everything when it comes to low rates with a grain of salt. A lot of people don't realize that rates are, to one level or another, the grim reaper of the economy. Yeah. So as jobs aren't doing so hot, as the economy is not doing so hot, as recession is a conversation piece, that's when rates tend to do better. So, it's almost like I really want crazy low rates, but do I?
Careful what you wish for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It can portend other very bad things going on in the economy.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, Dawn, we got some folks joining us, jumping in. Yeah. We need a YouTube comment or two to see if we have a pulse over there.
All right. We got Chris and Emily in Bynum. Praying our survey will be done this week so we can begin the construction process. We're so excited. Oh, that's awesome.
That's exciting, yeah.
And Carolyn's chiming in that she thinks July 1st is a good start date.
Wonder why that might be.
Then we've got Isolde Karen saying Tilson howdy, watching from Richmond, building in Arlington V in Fort Bend County, still waiting for our permit.
Oh my gosh, Fort Bend County, come on, let's go.
Yeah, get with it. We get Denise saying, afternoon, Greg sent me a picture this morning. The plumbing pipes are in and cables were delivered. We may have a slab next week. Awesome.
All right.
Very
the rain will skirt away from you.
And then we got Julia saying hi from Parker, Texas. Just signed a contract to begin building our Gonzalez home. Oh, awesome. Welcome. Congratulations.
Very cool.
And yeah, I can get somebody from YouTube to say hey so we know that you're there.
Yes. We know you're watching, lurkers. Absolutely lurking. Okay. So we've established that 6.95% is about the last average for the last 30. Actually, no, it's way below that.
Actually, the average for about the last 85, 90 years.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Thank you, Tim.
Tim always there with a save.
So watching from Southern California, working towards building in Hamilton County. We have a Polydor C in your computers, but I'm told we're now going to go with a Lone Star. Okay.
Wonder who's telling them that.
Yeah, somebody saw the new model. They are both gorgeous homes, so you could not go wrong with either one.
I spent a little. Oh, go ahead, yeah. Here we go.
And then we've got another person watching from Livernia.
All right. So
Thank
the
you.
YouTubers are out there. They're just quiet today. They're just
Yeah.
soaking in all this information. Spent the weekend in Hamilton County. Well, technically Coryell County. Back and forth between the two ranches out there. It was way too hot.
Nice.
I'm way too old to be pretending like I know how to work cows. So that was a long weekend. So yeah, we're at 6.95%. That is what it is. We still have tons of people building houses, which is awesome.
100%.
So let's talk a little bit about traditional construction lending, and then we'll get into maybe differentiation between that and easy buy here in a second. But let's talk first how like 99% of custom homes are built not only in Texas but really across the country. How does that work? So I mean, obviously, if I'm just your run of the mill Joe Schmo builder, and then you got customer Mr. Jones, they don't have the money to do it. The builder doesn't have the money to do it. How do these two come together, and what's that process look like?
Sure. So let's start by rewinding maybe 10 years or so. If you were going to be doing this, you had a three-fold or three-step process that you would have used. Probably a land loan to acquire your property, to acquire the land that you're going to build on. Then you would have refinanced anything owed on that plus the cost of the build using a construction loan. And then when the house was done, you would have refinanced that into a permanent mortgage. Now, about a decade ago, there really started to arise what they called a one-time or single close construction to permanent loan. And what that does is it takes away the need for the land loan, the construction loan, and the permanent loan separately, and allows you to do it in one transaction. So that loan can be used to acquire the land, build on it, and then it can convert automatically into a long-term fixed rate loan. So that has become very helpful so that you don't have to go through 3 sets of closings, 3 sets of closing costs in the majority of all instances. These are offered as conventional loans. These are offered as FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans, jumbo loans. So they cover a pretty wide sphere of folks. Sometimes you need a little more flexibility. So the construction loan to refinancing into a permanent loan may still be an option. This may be if you have a home to sell and you can't afford both, that kind of thing. But there are plenty of options. In fact, we offer 9 different ways to do these types of loans. If you talk to most lenders around the country, they offer 2, maybe 1, sometimes 3, but not many more than that. So we have quite a different ways to go that route if we need to. However, the good news is with Tilson, you don't necessarily need a construction loan.
Exactly.
Did we just lose Eric?
We did, but he's coming back. I don't know what happened to him. I gotta put us back in order though, because people get upset. Yeah. Okay.
Feels like I got my card shuffled there. But with the Tilson Easy Buy process, obviously they give you an advantage that pretty much you can count them on less than one hand. How many builders in the country are out there who give you the ability to build on your land and build your home without the need for a construction loan? It is a significant advantage. The interest of a construction loan, much less the cost, is considerable when you compare it to what Tilson can do for you with regards to that. So we're blessed to have the best of both worlds, the ability for somebody who needs to acquire land to utilize a construction loan if needed, or somebody who already has their land and has that equity requirement met. They can utilize the Tilson Easy Buy process, and it really is a breeze. They don't have to close a loan until that home is done.
Yep. Yeah, the easy buy process is definitely an advantage, but we're excited to have, you guys with us now, that for the people who haven't met the 10% equity, or like you said, they don't have their land yet, they need to finance that in at the same time. We want to have all of those options available for all of our buyers, because our goal is to get as many people into their homes as we can. And
lending is not a one size fits all thing. So it's
absolutely
good to have those options available so that you can take advantage of them when they're needed.
Yeah. And we get that question a lot, like what is the best loan program, for me? And that's such an individual thing. And
it is,
honestly, my advice is it's whatever can get you into the house as quickly as possible for the least amount of, fees and interest. So whatever gets you in that house. Because then you can start, you don't build equity if there's nothing on the, if you don't have the property, you're not building equity. And that's, get in that house, get in the house as quickly as you can.
Best time to start building was yesterday. Second best
Absolutely.
time.
Well, yeah, like we were talking about that 6.9%. We've lost Eric again, so I guess he'll come back. We have a lot of people who were talking about, I'm waiting for the interest rate to go down. It didn't happen. Like if you had not been waiting for that to happen and you had started the process, you could be in your home almost by now.
And guess what? The prices aren't going to go down.
Yeah,
anytime
prices
soon.
are not going to go down. Yeah.
There's very little things in this country that you can tell me the price went down in the last year. It's just not happening tremendously. We know that hopefully inflation is now abated a little bit from where it was, and we believe it is. But as you know, like nothing's getting all that cheaper. So it's, if you're waiting for that interest rate to come down, you're probably not utilizing the wisest of strategies, because at the end of the day, the cost continues to go up until that interest rate comes down. And the next thing you know, the savings from the interest rate coming down can get wiped out.
Yeah. And if the interest rate does go down 2 years from now, 1 year from now, you refinance.
The rate's a temporary thing in the grand scheme of things. The price.
Price is permanent. Yeah. And always increasing. Eric, you doing okay?
As far as I know, I don't know.
He'll be with us. Awesome. This happened to me last time, so now I pass this baton to you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we did have
we did have a couple other people who've got comments, so we'll see what they're up to. We've got Chris saying, good afternoon. Hector is on site today staking forms for our Tampico C in Bastrop County. We are ready. Oh, that's awesome. That's so exciting. We got Yarb saying howdy. We got Straw Hat Hunter asking, Don, is your sidewall painted Tilson green? Yes, I'm actually in somebody else's office today, but yeah, that is definitely Tilson green. Good eye. We got Lisa Miller saying hi there. We're building in Hamilton County also. We are building a pretty custom home, most like the Lone Star floor plan, but looks like the San Jacinto. Oh, awesome. Can't wait to see that one. We got Amy saying hi from Bernie. The cables are going in today, hopefully pouring the slab by Friday. Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. Really good.
All right. And then Tim says we have 2 adjoining lots with 2 separate loans. One is a 5-year with a balloon payment, and the second lot is a 30-year fixed. Can we refi and make both lots one loan with Wagon Hill?
Well,
and he's also asking, will that make it easier to go into easy buy when we are ready to build?
Tim, that's a highly specialized question. I think we would want to pull up on a call to really get into that, because there's gonna be one of those answers where I tell you, it depends.
It depends.
Depends. So we would really need to look at the equity position in each one, figure out exactly where we stand. You could potentially combine that into one parcel and pay them both off and then include it. It's possible, but there are some hoops we'd need to jump through, and we'd want to make sure we had a good conversation about it before we put a plan in place.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I guess he's asking about the lots before we go into easy buy. So I guess that's going to depend probably on time frame. So
it depends. Are they the same size lots? What is each one going to appraise for? Where does that put you in your overall equity position? Those types of things. So it really is. It depends. Answer. I hate to give that answer, but it's just true. We would need to dot I's and cross T's on that one to make darn sure we had it right, so that we could get you the right info.
Yeah. So Tim, this is who you'd call, and we can get you on the right track for that.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We can get an answer on that, and it because it will. I guess John, it'll depend on the program, right? Is it going to be conventional? Okay, just making sure that's kind of it doesn't really depend so much on you, Tim, necessarily. It's what program is going to fit best.
The program would have an impact, but most of them are going to be okay with it, just as long as we're making sure that whichever loan we are putting Tim into is in first lien position, and that the other ones have either been paid off or what they call subordinated, basically put back into a junior lien position. So again, we would want to go over those options with Tim, make sure he's got a plan of attack before we went down that path of saying, do this or don't do that.
Yeah,
perfect.
Absolutely. Makes sense. And then we've got Kenneth saying, after 2.5 years of living in our Whitney house, we love it. And with the weather, it's holding up well and still standing proudly. Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Ken. Yeah. It's very, very cool. Okay. So we talked construction loans, and I guess my computer's allergic to those. So it does not.
Did you see that? It just.
It left. Yeah. Just that again. So now let's talk a little bit how that differs from Easy Buy. Unless you did that already while I was gone.
We hinted at it. We didn't really go into any specifics.
Yeah, and the Easy Buy is real simple. Tilson does an amazing job with the marketing pieces that Don and the team have put together to explain the Easy Buy process. You can spend 2 minutes learning it. You can spend, I think there's one video that's pretty lengthy. That's maybe
it's like an hour and a half. It's fine.
But at the end of the day, if you understand these two concepts, you'll have a pretty good understanding of it. Your equity position into the transaction. Now, this would be the value of your build plus the value of any money owed against your land needs to be at least 10% of that. So as long as you have at least 10% equity of that math equation, you're in great shape. And as long as you have a 640 or better credit score, you would qualify for the Easy Buy. So that was my attempt at distilling that hour and a half down to 30 seconds. But at the end of the day, that keeps it real simple. We talk about that whenever you start working with a salesperson at Tilson and then are referred over to Wagon Hill. Well, we're going to have that conversation in the first time we meet with you to make sure that we understand where you sit in your equity position and whether or not that is going to get you where you want to go with the Easy Buy, or do we need to maybe pivot and look at a different path with potentially a construction loan. Probably 96, 97% of all folks we talk to end up in the traditional Easy Buy. Mm-hmm. So that'll give you an idea of the breakdown.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. And Tim says he understands and he will be in contact soon, so we can discuss the situation. And then we've got Taisha saying hello from Victoria. Moved into the Marion on April 18th. I absolutely love my home. I actually was looking to buy another lot in my subdivision to build the Palo Duro. The building process was fun. Oh, well, you must have enjoyed it if you're ready to do it again. That's awesome. And yeah, we shared pictures of your home. I think it was last week, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Awesome. Did a great job.
Marion's still one of my favorites. I spent many hours in the Marion in Bryan, Texas. It's a good place. I love it.
Yeah. Great place. All right. And then we've got Kevin saying, hello, I like the Marshall plan, but I already have a shop on our property. Is it possible to take the garage off? I do not see many options on the website. So yeah, I mean, you can absolutely, we can customize these homes for you however you like. That is something that I would say, you're going to need to come into a design center, and we're going to need to put some pen to paper and figure out how to draw that in. But yeah, we can customize it to take that garage, or even make one of our other plans look like the exterior on the Marshall, whatever appeals to you about it. So yeah, that's something that we can talk to you about doing.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and then our friend from YouTube is confirming that Easy Buy also uses the current interest rate, 6.95%.
Important
thing. How does that work, John?
Yeah, important thing to understand about interest rates is that is an average. So there are different interest rates for different programs and for each individual situation. Mortgage looks at many factors when it's calculating an interest rate. It could be loan to value, it could be credit score, it could be the type of the property, it could be whether or not you're going to live in it, or whether it's going to be a second home or an investment property. I could go on. There's probably another half dozen that probably wouldn't apply to most Tilson clients. But, conventional versus FHA and VA, different rate structure altogether. So that 6.95 is an average of all of those. So when you see those rates, when you go out and see average interest rates, the good ones are going to give you basically an average across all loan programs. And so it's not just the rate. The rate doesn't exist. It's going to have all sorts of variables that go into play on that. So that's an important thing to understand.
Yeah, and it's also important to understand with Easy Buy, it'll be the interest rate when the home is finished. So not what the interest rate is right now, because you're not, with the Easy Buy program, you're not getting any type of, you're not getting a construction loan. We're not locking you in to a rate or any of that. You're going to go with what the mortgage would be at the end. So at that point, we're going to recheck rates and get you in at that rate.
So John, walk us through that process. Let's talk rate locks on both construction loan, one-time close construction loan, and on Easy Buy. Okay. And again, with broadly speaking, telling people that the rate was the same a year ago today.
So the thing you'll want to know on the Easy Buy is Don hit the nail right on the head, is generally speaking with the process on the construction process, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but once you start construction, the average I've seen from Tilson across the board is about 7.5 months. Could be a little longer, could be a little shorter, but that's a pretty good working average. So 60 days prior to completion, we're going to be reconnecting with anybody who has a loan approval with us and starting to talk about, okay, how do you want this final loan structured? Do you want to bring any additional money and make the mortgage smaller? Are we rolling in the closing costs into the final mortgage, or are you just paying off the actual amount due to Tilson? What term do you want? Do you want to include your property taxes and homeowners insurance inside of or outside of your mortgage payment? We have all those conversations, but that's the point where we're going to begin the rate conversation as well. And we're going to talk about looking at different options. Some folks are interested in buying down their interest rate. Some folks don't want to do that because they either may have a plan to sell another property or whatever and pay off that loan or pay it down significantly in the not too distant future. So there's so many different perspectives that go into play. But yes, with the Easy Buy, it would be very costly to lock before you start construction because you're locking and hedging over a longer period of time. Yes, the rate has hardly moved in the last year, but there's always the specter that it could. And that brings risk into the equation. And when you try to price risk, it can get very expensive. So, that's why we wait until we get to a little bit closer to the finish line to really have that rate conversation and start getting you ready. Now, as Eric said, if you're going a different path, if you're going with a construction loan, you're going to close that loan before construction starts. The reason why, you need a funding source to pay for the build and the land if applicable. So that's where we're going to lock you in up front. Generally with a construction loan, because it's going to encompass a 12-month time period. So you basically have 12 months to build the home after that loan is closed. You're going to be locking into a rate that's going to be above. It's going to be higher than that market average of 6.95. The reason why is because we have to price in that time hedge that comes into play. But what that eventually becomes is what I like to call a ceiling or worst case scenario rate. So if we were to play devil's advocate and say, rates went to 10%, not that that's happened in a long, long time. But let's just say they did. You would know that you'd have your ceiling rate locked into, and your rate's not going to get any higher than that individual interest rate. The only caveat to that is we have to get done within that 12-month time frame. The great news is you get what's called a float down, which means your floor is undetermined yet. So if rates went down to 4%, inexplicably, and by the way, it's going to take a catalyst to get them to 4%, and it's usually a bad.
Yeah, you're probably not going to like what else is happening in the world.
We don't want that. The catalyst that have dropped rates tremendously in years past: 9/11, the Grand Recession in 2008, COVID.
Yeah.
It takes bad
that thing where we were locked in our houses for months.
Yeah.
No,
it takes really bad things for rates to drop rapidly. Just keep that in mind. But with the floor being undetermined, that means as low as the interest rates go, you have the ability to take that lower interest rate at completion on into your permanent long-term loan. So the construction loan is going to give you a little protection at the top and give you a floor that can go as low as the market will allow.
Okay. And then Kev.
Very cool. So when on Easy Buy,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll say on Easy Buy, when typically would they lock in their rate?
It really depends. I mean, the soonest you could do it would be maybe 60 days, in advance of the closing. Anything more than that, you're paying an additional cost to do so. The other thing that we can talk about on any of these rate locks is we can lock you in with a float down attached to that rate lock as well, especially if we're giving it a little bit of time between that point and the finish line for the home being complete in your closing. So that's something that we can look at. Sometimes it can go up to 10 days prior to the closing. It just really depends on the individual circumstances, what's going on in the market in the short run. You have all sorts of influencing factors that could come into play.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And so our friends clarifying, got it, is Easy Buy separate from something like a VA loan? Just a little confused about this. So
Not at all. Yeah, you can utilize and be pre-qualified and then conditionally approved for a VA loan as your permanent loan and still take advantage of the Easy Buy. So we would just simply qualify you for your VA loan, have that conditionally approved before construction even begins. And then again, at the end, that's when we're going to button up everything, make sure the loan size is right, going to make sure the term is right, all those details. We're going to update and recheck credit. We're going to update income, assets, those kind of things, just so that we have you ready to go for closing. And you'll use your VA loan then to pay off the Tilson mechanics lien that is put in place when you sign your contract.
yeah. So basically the situation with financing the construction of your home, there's really, three general ways that you can pay. You cash, which is what I want to do when I grow up. You can do the Easy Buy program, or you can go with one of the construction loan programs. Yep. So Easy Buy is the way the majority of our buyers do it. And what's happening in that case is Tilson is actually putting up the money and paying for your home for construction to happen. So like Jon was talking about earlier, we do require that you have 10% equity. We do require that you get approved for some other loan program that we know is going to pay us back when we're done. And that's that set. And then there's the construction loan products. If you, for some reason, don't have that 10% equity because maybe you don't have land yet, or you just bought it and you haven't paid enough off in it, we need to go ahead and finance the construction as part of that, paying off that land. So that is a kind of a different product. But your final mortgage, you can do any type of, traditional, 30-year conventional VA, FHA, anything that you would qualify for as your final mortgage. So that's kind of how it breaks down. So I hope that kind of clarified.
You to my appointments. You nailed it.
All right, awesome. All right, and then we have Jennifer Sharon. We got our approval from Wagon Hill last month. Jason was great to work with. Our stakeout is done, color appointment done, and we're waiting on drafting to finalize our Polidoro plans. Awesome, you are moving right along. And then Angela had asked if they can buy their rate down with Easy Buy if they want to, and I think we covered that. Yes, you can.
You absolutely can. And we'll give you those options at the point in time when the rate locking conversation begins. We're going to give you multiple options to consider. We're going to look at break-even points, things like that, so that you've got the data you need to make a good decision for what it is you're trying to do.
And something to know, guys, everybody is talking about they're in the pre-approval process with Wagon Hill, or they just got their approval. We are going to qualify you, correct me if I'm wrong, Jon, but we're qualifying them at a higher rate than what it is right now, just in case, to cover you and make sure a little bit.
Ever so slightly. As we identified that 695 as the average, we pre-qualify everybody who is going to occupy that home as their primary residence at 7%, fixed for 30 years.
Okay.
So that's awesome. What we're doing right now until the market tells us to use a different rate.
There you go. All right. And then Kevin, our friend who was.
Yeah. So I think the way to say that is, go ahead. I said, no one has a crystal ball, but they do have some visibility. Yeah. It's hard to know for sure what's ever going to happen because Jon, those catastrophic events that Jon mentioned, those are black swans. Nobody sees them. Well, theoretically, no one sees them coming. We certainly don't see them.
Don't go all conspiracy theory.
Or the tinfoil hat.
Tinfoil hats on our next episode.
That's right. But all that to say that for example, right this second, I personally, if I were doing a mortgage right now, I probably would not pay extra to buy the rate down today on June 10th, 2025. June 10th, 2025. I would not. I personally wouldn't do that, but I don't I can't buy your peace, right? What it takes to help you sleep. So, if you have the money to do it, and Jon will walk you through the program, if that'll be, here's what it's going to be, and you want to do it. Absolutely.
That's where a break-even point is a very helpful thing to be able to compare, an option that might have a lower rate, higher cost versus one that might have a higher rate, lower cost. Is you want to figure out that break-even point and ask yourself, okay, if the break-even point is 3.5 years, do I think I'll likely refinance this loan, pay it off, do something else with it in the next 3.5 years? If the answer is yes, you don't want to do it. If the answer is no, then a buy down may make sense and we can explore it further.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, Eric, Kevin, our friend who was asking about the Marshall Plan was asking, how does taking off the roof affect the price?
Okay, so I don't know if we're talking about deleting. He's talking about deleting the garage. So I don't know if that's what he means, or like maybe you want to do the roof yourself, or something. Like you want to do a metal roof. Like we can do metal roofs, or maybe you want to do your own metal roof. But specifically, I mean, obviously somebody's got to do a roof. So we
As the
Yeah.
like to see a roof.
The house has to come with a roof somehow before we can finance it.
Front door roof, all of that.
I want a convertible. Okay, so basically, let's say that you were going to upgrade to a metal roof through Tilson. You would actually just pay the delta. So let's say that a metal roof on a house like that is, I don't know, $40,000 or $50,000 more than a conventional, shingle roof. You would just pay the delta. So we'd have a price for the metal roof, and then less what you paid for the shingles, and you would literally just pay the delta. And that would be the same if you decided you wanted to have your own. Like I have a company, my brother-in-law does metal roofing, and he's going to put my roof on. We're like, okay, no problem. We'll actually give you the roofing contract. So whatever our roofing contract pays for the Owens Corning Oak Ridge shingles and the labor, we're going to give you that dollar amount, and then whatever the delta is between that, that's your responsibility. But that was a good question. But yeah, I'd be sure I got it right, Kevin. If you're asking specifically deleting the garage pricing, I don't have that pricing available. I'll have you know I did text my brother while we were doing this, so I let him know that this is a thing and people are asking. So he and his team will work on that diligently. Not because I asked him to, but because customers believe me, not because I asked him to. So
awesome. And Kevin, if you meant something else, let us know what you meant. We'll address that question.
Yeah, definitely do that. All right, so let's talk about financing, John. Things like the extemporaneous things that go into making a house a finished home, water wells, septic systems. Can those type of things be rolled into?
Yeah, anything that you're incurring as a cost to produce a dwelling on your land can absolutely be included. What we can't do is give you cash back for, preference items, things like that. But if we're talking about base systems, water, sewer, you name it, electrical, yeah, that absolutely can be included. If you're looking for, I paid for some sort of decorating or something, and I'd like to get the cash back, can't do that. So it's got to contribute towards the base dwelling, something that is permanent. I guess that's the best way I can explain that.
Okay.
Really attached to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect.
All right. And let's see. Phyllis is saying, I'm late to the party, but do you work with tax-vet loans? The current rate is lower than 7%. I heard you mention VA loans.
We do not work with tax-vet loans. The current rate, when we talk about the 7%, Phyllis, that is the qualifying, what we pre-qualify everybody on. The actual rate that somebody might get is going to depend on their own personal circumstances. As a rule, generally VA loans do price a little bit lower than conventional loans in terms of interest rates. So yes, that you're probably right. The current rate would be lower than 7%. But at the end of the day, VA loans, again, no different than a conventional or an FHA. It's going to be subject to somebody's qualifications. If there's a lower credit score, they're probably going to pay a higher interest rate. If there's a higher credit score, they're probably going to pay a lower interest rate. So keep that piece in mind.
And also, Phyllis, I don't know right now if the tax-vet rate is lower than the VA rate. I think they usually follow pretty close to one another, since the funding is done very similarly.
Okay.
So we could certainly check.
All right. And then Emily is asking, will we need to have an additional survey done of the property once the house is built? And she's saying for closing purposes.
Good question. Yes, you will need to update the survey that you probably already have to reflect the home that is now on the property. So they call that a final as-built survey. So typically that is going to get addressed in your sales process up front, and they're going to determine who's responsible for it, whether it's you, whether it's Tilson. And so that all gets hashed out up front. But yeah, we're going to need to plot that home on the survey that you probably have already had done. My approach is, if you can avoid getting a brand new survey and reach out to the person who originally did your survey, you might be able to save a few bucks. So that's the approach. But yeah, title companies need that to be able to ensure that we have clear title being passed to the lender.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it proves Emily, that we're not the home's not sitting across any easements. It's not over any building lines. It's not sitting on a gas pipeline easement, something like that. All things that the lender is going to want verified, and the title company is going to want verified, that we're not, you're not violating any of the restrictions, setbacks, all that kind of good stuff. John, I mean, maybe too specific on them. What has to be on that final improvement survey, and what doesn't have to be on? Like, does the propane tank have to be on there? Does the septic system have to be on there? Or does it differ?
Yeah, and really, I would hate to answer that question, not being a survey expert. But what I would tell you is generally most good surveyors are going to include those items on there, just to make sure that you're not. And Eric really hit the nail on the head. You don't want that house or any of the important systems or structures to be encroaching anything where somebody has an easement and can come do work on your land right underneath where one of your valuable structure systems, et cetera, is sitting. So that's the general design, is we want to make sure that nothing is going to jeopardize the dwelling and negatively impact its value, its marketability, those kind of things. So as not a survey expert, I will kind of maybe back off or beg off of answering that one. But at the end of the day, you do want most everything reflected on that survey.
Okay. All right. And then Kevin was clarifying that I think he just wants to take the roof off of the garage space, is what he.
Well, the garage. He wants to.
Yeah.
I think he wants the garage off. And I just don't have the pricing on that, Kevin. But one of our design centers
we can get that for you.
Pricing on that.
All right. And
it's going to be a negative number.
It's going to significantly impact that price to make it lower for you. Dustin is asking, what is the average time frame from pre-approval to finished build? And as always, thank you for doing these sessions with Jon.
Hey, Dustin, how are you?
Of course.
Dustin and his lovely wife and I just had a meeting a couple days ago.
Awesome.
Average time frame from pre-approval to finish and build. That can depend, but I would say probably, if I had to put a number on it, from when you get pre-approved to the finish line, 10 to 12 months. That's probably a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of that, Dustin, does depend on, and others, Dustin asked it, but other people are thinking it. A lot of that depends on customer participation and customer resolve in your decisions. That's the best way, the most diplomatic way I can say.
Stay away from Pinterest.
Don't make changes. That is, your resolve for the decisions that you and your wife have made has probably, not kidding, one of the largest impacts on time frame. People being able to make decisions and stick to those decisions, and quite frankly, usually your first instinct is the best. Like, don't second guess yourself. I don't care if it's colors, design, everything's like. If you end up changing it, you'll almost always end up coming back to what they originally picked. So, that's and then the other things that impact that from a customer participation standpoint are items that we or Jon will request. So either Tilson or Wagon Hill will request that are pursuant to the land itself that we just can't get because you're the owner. So anything we ask for, like, hey, we need copy of the deed. We need you to sign this application to the Property Owners Association or to the Architecture Control Committee, or hey, this goofy ACC requires the check actually be written by the customer. Write the check, we'll reimburse you. Like, there's some little nuanced, weird things that happen that just us being proactive about alerting you to, and then you being responsive and hey, here it is. Here's not waiting 2, 3, 4 weeks on DocuSign stuff to be done. And so we wait enough on municipalities and counties and POAs and power companies. We don't like waiting on. I don't want y'all waiting on us, and we try not to have to wait on you. So we do everything we can that we are allowed to do, and then we do need the customer's help with a lot of it, since it's your land and all.
The operative word on built in your lot is yours. It's not ours.
Is that the same? Do you see the same thing on your side, John, on the
Yeah.
lending? Like there's
It really is with mortgage lending, especially when the government got more heavily involved after the Grand Recession in 07, 08, 09. The lending laws changed. Of course, back in 07, you could probably fog a mirror and get a loan. It was out of control. Now,
Yeah, I got a loan I had no business having.
there were, well, and they had if anyone ever saw the movie The Big Short, there were lenders out there that were doing loans that, second, third, fourth homes for people who couldn't really do one. And it was just a bad situation. So that did get reformed. And like anything, the pendulum probably swung a little bit too far. For the most part, it hasn't swung much back at all in that time frame. Now, I was joking with Don and Eric before we got on. There's two things you don't want to see made: hot dogs and mortgages. And the reason why is because there's probably 200 to 300 steps in the average mortgage. I would say it's a similar number to build a custom home, if not more. So just keep in mind, the time frame to turn something around is going to be equivalent to how quickly you execute knocking out each of those steps. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of little mini hurdles or steps or whatever you want to call them that you need to check off to move through the process. And the quicker you can do each one, the quicker the process is going to move. I can tell you one thing: Tilson, once they get going, can build a house as quickly as anyone and do a great job with it. So it's just important to remember, it is 100% what Eric said. It's how quickly you can address those things, how much you can stay away from making substantive changes to things that kind of put the brakes on everything and you have to pivot and go into a different direction. All of those things are going to come into play in terms of, gauging turnaround time.
Okay, awesome. All right, we've got Jocelyn saying, late to the party, what does pre-qualification look like for the Easy Buy program? What's needed to pre-qualify? We have a meeting on the 28th of this month in Republic Grand Ranch.
Mm-hmm. So Jocelyn, the process works is once you're ready to talk to us for pre-qualification, you'll get referred over to us. Your salesperson is going to put you into our lead system, and you're going to get an email instantaneously that'll give you a ability to click a link and schedule an appointment with us. Then at that point in time, we're just going to go over and make sure we're all on the same page about what you're looking for. We want to make sure we understand your land, all the particulars about it, understand what you do for a living, how you earn your income, that kind of thing. Then we want to look at those modifiers that could change which direction we go on a program, such as, are you a veteran? How does the credit look? How does, where's your down payment money coming from? Do you, all sorts of different things. Then what we're going to do is complete as much of your loan application for you based on information that's already been provided to us by Tilson. We're going to send that over to you, have you authorize everything, and then we're going to check credit, put and structure the loan that's going to give you the best approach to the entire process, and then we're going to give you that information and present it back to you. At that point, you'll have everything you need info-wise to be able to move forward. If you haven't signed your contract at that point in time, you'll have all those details dialed in so that you know what the numbers look like. From that point, after you've signed your contract, Tilson begins to work on your plans, gets that home ready to have engineered plans in place to be built. We're going to then appraise your property as if that home was already sitting on it today. That's called a subject to appraisal. That's how we validate that 10% equity requirement if we're shooting for the Easy Buy program. Once that's all cleared off, then we're going to issue a commitment letter to both you and Tilson, and then they'll get you rolling on building. And as we mentioned before, we'll reconnect a couple months prior to completion and dial everything in for the closing.
Okay. And Jocelyn is sharing that her husband is retired Navy. So thank you for your service, and we would definitely look at the VA program for you.
Yeah, we the other thing there, I know you mentioned earlier, maybe like she's late to the party, you mentioned kind of a credit score minimum for Easy Buy. Yeah. You want to go back through that and then maybe juxtapose that to
so the 640 credit minimum for the Easy Buy goes right along with that 10% equity requirement. Those are really the two caveats for the Easy Buy program. Of course, an approval. They would like an approval too, accompanying those. But usually if you meet those two, you're going to find an approval in your future. Now, if your credit score is below 640 and that doesn't mean you're necessarily, out of the water and being able to do this. The construction to permanent loan options can expand those parameters. So we do have the ability to look at those types of loans to be able to fit you into a product that would get you building regardless. So keep that in mind. Just because maybe you have a 620 credit score right now, that doesn't mean that you cannot build with Tilson Homes. It is just something we have to look and figure out what path is going to get you to where you want to go. A, the quickest, B, the smoothest, and C, well, they're all A1, A2, A3, but quickest, smoothest, and most affordable. They're all just as important. So, but there are options. That's the thing. Sometimes we just have to look, figure out the scenario, and then lay out a couple of different paths that we can choose to take and have you follow the correct path that works best for you.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Beautiful.
All right. And then we've got Angela asking, does Tilson have plans to add more offices or locations in Blanco, perhaps?
We do have planned to add more locations. Unfortunately, right now, Blanco is not one that's on our targeted list of places to go, although it is beautiful, Angela. But no, that one's not on the list right now. So far, people from Blanco don't mind. We haven't had a hard time getting them to drive to either San Marcos or Bernie. Or in some cases Georgetown from Blanco, and so that's right now the Hill Country is that's where those are going to be for the time being.
All right, and
but yes, more offices.
Taisha's asking, Michelle was my consultant with the Marion. She was awesome, and she's no longer at Tilson. Can you please have someone reach out to me? I have some lots I'm looking at and need to be sure the Palo Duro will fit on it. Yes, we will make sure. I think we already have your contact information in there, so I'll get one of our new home specialists who are probably already watching, and they may have already dialed your phone number as soon as they saw this message. They will get it. Yeah, if your phone's ringing, it's us. Tell them I said hi, and yeah, we can make sure that we can get you back into that San Marcos office to meet with them and make sure that you're buying a lot that Palo Duro is going to fit on for you. All right, and Denise is sharing, FYI, the loan approval was one of the quickest things. Rain was not a factor in it, so it went very smoothly. Sent in all docs, and we had an approval in less than a week. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Denise.
Yes. One of my favorite parts of the lending process is that it doesn't matter what the weather's doing.
Yep.
So it's nice. A lot of my world is a fan. All right, folks, so what we'll do here is we'll do kind of a last call for questions. Thank you for bearing with my internet connectivity issues, but anyway, very excited that y'all all joined us today. Obviously, thank you, Jon, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this. I cannot believe it's been a year since you've been on. That blows my mind. Yeah, you and I were in a very different place last year.
We were ready to go to Omaha. One of us did.
Stickball.
Yeah. No.
One of us did.
Yeah, well, look at the money we saved. Yeah, it's exactly right. One shouldn't have and one should have. Anyway, so folks, obviously, thank you all for joining and watching. We got the journey doesn't have to end here. We know that. We have a website that's open 24/7. That's got a ton of information on there. You got the new home specialist on standby, like Don was talking about, that can answer your high-level question. You can text with us there. You can send in information, ask questions. They'll get you set up with an appointment at any of our 12 design centers that are open 7 days a week to tour the model homes, look through the design center selections. You can look at all of the door hardware, cabinet hardware, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, tile, wood, LVP, all of the things so your heart's content. And then obviously we have a Facebook page, and we have I'm sure we have Instagram, and then we have a YouTube channel that has copious amounts of content that Dawn and her team have carefully organized. And there's customer testimonials, there's customer home tours, there's every one of these is on there. So you can just roll through that content and learn everything that there is to know about building a custom home on your land. We don't gate any of this either. Like, none of this is gated. You can get all this stuff. We got nothing to hide, and just keep watching the competition chase it. So I'm sure the view's lovely. So fun to do this. So Dawn, thank you for putting it on, and thank you, Jon, for doing this with us, man, and for all you're doing for our customers. I really genuinely do appreciate it. It's fantastic. And thank you all for watching. We hope this was helpful, and we genuinely hope to make you part of the Tilson and Wagon Hill Home Loans family.
Bye, everybody.